Attack me with all your strength.
There's one thing that's clear on the lead up to Acolyte, and there is an agenda behind what is being made. There are many just like me who came to this show hoping that this agenda would take a backseat, that it would be secondary to the story, but it's not. Star Wars has always been a cultural commentary. It's spoken on some of the most important topics of the day, but in doing so, it was always second to the characters and the story. And that's the problem. May isn't a character. She is a message. May is the oppressed outsider who has been pushed down by the toxic masculinity of the Jedi, and she has been forced to now play this role to enact vengeance for all of the sins that the Jedi have caused. Seemingly, her whole purpose to exist is to expose all of this, to bring this to the light, to go after these Jedi because they are the problem. And it's because of the suffering in her past that this vengeance is now justified. For May, there's no hero's journey, there's no character, there's nothing for us to actually latch onto. She is just justified immediately and made the hero because of her pain. This is not compelling. This is not interesting. This is not what we see in the best stories, in the best characters, in anything. Forget about Star Wars. Step outside and just talk about film and cinema and comic books and any media you want to talk about. The best characters have a journey that isn't just immediately justified because of their pain. Think of Batman as an example. Much of what comes out of that character is the pain and the loss of his parents, but that doesn't make his actions justified. He's always right on that edge, on the edge of what is right and wrong, and he's trying in some ways, and sometimes he's not. Sometimes he goes too far, but it's not because he's justified because of his parents' death and what he's been through that make him an interesting character. And with May, there's none of that. We're just simply told that she's here to kill these Jedi, and that these Jedi, well, actually, we're not even really totally sure, but it seems like these 4 Jedi are responsible for the death of her family, and so now she's holding them responsible, and all the dialogue, all of the language make it seem like she's in the right, and therefore she's not a character, she's just a message. She's just carrying this truth that the toxic masculinity of the Jedi, that the patriarchy must be overthrown, and there's no substance to it at all. And there's already going to be some, probably in the comments right now, that's saying my perspective is the problem, that I am toxic, that I am racist, that I am a bigot. The reality is Star Wars has always been for everyone. It didn't matter who you loved, who you didn't love. It didn't matter your politics. It didn't matter any of that. If you liked Star Wars, there was always room for you at the table. But now it feels very different. Now, if you are to be a fan of Disney Star Wars, you must believe the exact same things that they do. You must like all of the same things that Disney likes. How can they justify this exclusion of the fan base? Well, we saw it earlier this month when Kathleen Kennedy came out and blamed toxic male fans. Because of the oppression, all of their actions are justified. That's the message of Acolyte. I do want to make sure it's clear, I do not in any way endorse some of the way people are talking to each other on Twitter, some of the way that you're going back and forth and just being rude and mean and hurtful. There is no place for any of that. We can disagree. We can even disagree strongly without resulting to being toxic. And are there some fans that are being toxic? Absolutely. Is it only those who are against Acolyte that are toxic? No, not at all. People are being toxic all over the place. The only difference is Disney is willing to blame a certain set of fans so that they can appease a different crowd, and they're playing that game because, Well, everyone's playing that game these days. That's exactly what has to happen, especially in the month of June. And so when we're talking about this, I don't think we need to be bringing all of these things into Star Wars. I don't want to be talking about these things, but this is what we're looking at. And when we think about this, when we talk about a show that has all of this context around it, that all of the interviews, all of the conversations, all of the articles are about these topics, what are we going to think when we see the show? I can't then walk even into the show without this presupposition. And I tried. I really tried. I watched those first 2 episodes and thought, maybe I can like this. And it was really a struggle. And it wasn't just because of the context. It was because there was nothing to really grip onto. The writing was just lame. It was flat. The storytelling really wasn't there. The only character that I was really interested in, and I know it's not just about me, but if you want me to keep watching, which you probably don't, Disney, but if you want me to keep watching, there needs to be things that I can connect with. Soul was the only one, and only because he kind of related to Qui-Gon Jinn. He gave the Qui-Gon Jinn vibes. He kind of was the elder statesman of the crew, the wiser one, though he would never call out Jackie, and that really kind of bugged me. I know I mentioned that in my review video, but the point being is this. Disney wants fans like me to leave Star Wars. I, like Tobin, am being offered that little green vial, that little vial of poison, and I have only 2 options. Well, they only think I have 2 options, but the 2 options that I'm being offered and that you're being offered by Disney is either confess your sin of toxicity, of toxic masculinity, of racism, of bigotry, of homophobia, whatever it might be. Confess your sin and love the show that we made, because if you don't love it, there's only one reason why you can't love it. So confess your sin and love the show, or take this poison and get out. Those are the 2 options. But to that, I just simply say,
Attack me with all your strength.